All right, so we've made it to the lunchtime part of it. Well, close if you're on the West Coast. As we're putting this together on a Friday. Traditionally, Thursdays with Niko's on a Thursday. But, because we're all kind of running around and we're doing our thing and we're all trying to spin as many pie plates as we possibly can on the big skinny sticks, you end up with Niko Moreno, who will be coming up with us in just a little bit at El Rolo and W on the Twitters. Man is all over the place. And we had Open Cup in the midweek. We had matchups last weekend. And my first question is going to be about what happened at Starfire. They had, for those of you that missed it, a 9-goal thriller that went a while on Wednesday. And getting out of that, getting into all of the other things that are going on, and then trying to get everything squared away and figured out, and you're going, okay, now what's the latest? And we're going to go over with Niko, as we always do, for red light, yellow light, green light. We're going to get into that, and who's on his radar, and what we're looking at with the week that will be when it comes to Major League Soccer. So there's plenty to talk about with Niko Moreno. And when we have these conversations, it's a chance to catch up, get the West Coast perspective on things, kind of focus on the Western Conference, in addition to what he thinks about the East, because, as most of you who listen to the show know and listen to the network know, the fact that we're on the East Coast, what we wanted to do early on in the birth of the network was kind of make a point where we wanted to have a lot of different voices from a lot of different places, and to be able to get Niko's perspective, because to be able to do it this way, as opposed to him waking up at the crack of before dawn and dropping in at 10:30 on a Thursday morning, where he's on his first cup of coffee and he's got chaos with folks trying to get to school and all that kind of stuff. We figured what we would do is we would kind of make it its own independent thing. And thanks to all of you guys for being a part of the independent thing that is Thursdays with Niko. For those of you that did miss it, by the way, it was one of the late games on Wednesday. And just to give you an idea, Seattle Sounders, San Diego Loyal, you're sitting there going, okay, it's Schmetzer and it's Landon Donovan, and they're going back and forth on this whole thing. So here's how it laid out. Seattle leads 1-0. That's your score at the break. 1-0. 53rd minute, PK by Joe Corona ties it at 1. 2 minutes later, Seattle takes the lead 2-1. Actually, sorry, I got to go all the way back to the beginning. Freddie Montero scores to make it 1-0. Ethan Dobelar scores to make it 2-0. That's your score at the break. So 2-0 Seattle at the break. So I'm misreading all my numbers. Joe Corona scores a PK to make it 2-1. Rothrock scores to make it 3-1. Corona scores again in the 73rd to make it 3-2. 90 plus 3. You end up with a goal on the board to tie it at 3. And just when you think you're done, you're not done, because they did not stop scoring. They literally did not stop scoring in this one. And so, Niko, good morning, afternoon.
Good morning, my man. Good morning to all of your wonderful audience. Excited to be here. One more time, we had U.S. Open Cup. We had CCL, MLS action. I am one tired individual, but we are here. I said, you know what? Do I want to go to the training for the Sounders today on Friday, right before they travel? Or do I want to hang out with my guy, John, and the best audience? I said, you know what? It's a no-brainer.
Well, and what I was doing before you came on is I was breaking down Starfire for everybody. and just how absolutely insane, nuts, crazy, out of control, you've got to be kidding me with all of this, that it was, because it was 1-0, 2-0. That was the score at the break. Then it was 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 90 plus 3, 3-3. Baker Whiting scores to make it 4-3. Kasanzu scores to make it 4-4. Then Montero with a PK. Freddie Montero, I imagine, is still in the ice bath after this one. 120 plus 3 gets the PK, and I imagine that Landon Donovan was not a happy man.
Nobody was happy, man. I got to tell you, I'm looking at body language from Craig Weibel, Brian Smetzer. I mean, that game was a roller coaster. I mean, I asked Coach about his heart rate throughout the whole thing, and he didn't even answer. He just told me, "Calmate, Nico, calmate." Those exact words is what he said to me, because I'm sure he didn't want to go over what he experienced. Because, man, it was a great game. Atmosphere was fantastic. My favorite part of going to Starfire for these types of games is that you get direct contact with all the fans and talk to a bunch of them. And it was just amazing just to get their feel. And I mean, this is a Wednesday night going into a Starfire complex that, if you've never been, the parking lot turns into a funnel with all these people coming out. So you really have to want to be there, right? But in terms of the game, San Diego Loyal comes in with a I have nothing to lose attitude, as usually happens in this tournament, right? So their intensity is up here, and the Sounders team that made a lot of changes was kind of mid-level, right? So it took them about 20 minutes to really get settled into this game, find out how they can really beat the San Diego Loyal team. But what happens when you got talent, when you got quality like Leo Chu, Freddie Montero, you put the ball in dangerous positions and mistakes happen. So obviously the San Diego Loyal keeper is going to want at least 3 of those back. But the 2 goals that you mentioned in the half, one for Di Montero, one double air, just kind of changed the game. But San Diego continues to fight. They really did a good job at bringing in their 2 attacking players in the second half as well, that really changed the game. And then from there on is just an exchange of punches in the middle of the ring. It was finished by a Reed Banger Whiting. That's what they're calling him now because of that beautiful goal, top left corner of the goalkeepers. And it was just beautiful, right? So then he goes down to the PK. Freddie Montero takes care of business. But it was a tough one for Seattle. Brian Smetzer does kind of, I feel, feels a little bit of weight lifted off his shoulders because he has not been able to win this in 5 years. I mean, it's been since 2017 that the Sounders have moved on from that first round match. So the fans have wanted that. They really love and understand the history of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, and they want that to continue. And Seattle gets to move forward. So now they face LA Galaxy. Probably you'll see a more first start team heavy squad for that one. But exciting. Absolutely wonderful game against San Diego.
And you get LA Galaxy in the round of 32 on May the 10th in Carson. So it's LAG and Seattle in the round of 32 as you continue to chase Open Cup glory, and that CCL spot going a different way than a lot of folks have the chance to. So,
but I like it, man. I mean, it's been fun. That Open Cup is very interesting, and especially when you get these types of games. I know Atlanta got kind of the short end of the stick in their game. No fault there for Gonzalo. I think that he put a good squad out there, and a lot of mistakes happened on Atlanta side. I couldn't believe Luis Abram on that bad giveaway from the back end. I mean, that goal to kind of put Atlanta away was sad to see. But before we finish talking about this, I do want to say Seattle gets 3 players that scored their first professional game goal with the number 1 team, right? So double air, obviously Reed Baker, who was fantastic, and then Rothrock. All 3 players part of that development system that Garth Lagerwey left here in Seattle, and now is giving you goals. So that's something to applaud.
Yep, no doubt about it. Now it's on to the round of 32 for those that have survived, and you're bringing in new folks, and it's a larger party for yet another round in the round of 32. Okay. Now, and this is a question across the league pretty much for the survivors that played Open Cup in the midweek, and you've got matches on the weekend. For Atlanta United, and this was a point that we made on the morning show, Atlanta United was the last match played last weekend. They play Open Cup in the midweek, and they're going to be the first match played Saturday afternoon from Geodis. I'd like to know who they angered when it came to making the schedule, because it's like, gee, thanks, and then you had to play 120, so you got folks that you thought might only playing 30 minutes. They end up playing 60, and it had to be a high intensity 60. Gutman and Lennon played 60. Machop Chol played 50. So there's going to be some interesting questions as Atlanta United as the example that we talk about. You played substantive minutes, and now you've got to do a quick turn and go to Nashville. And no Giacomakis this week. Almada is questionable heading to Nashville. My guess is he's on the bench, and if you need him late, you need him late. But you don't want to push it considering anticipation of future interaction and results. Coming out of Open Cup, going into a new round of matches, how does this affect what Seattle is going into, considering the minutes that you guys had to play in addition? And like I said, we talk about it in these test cases because of what you saw at Starfire, what we saw at the Fraction, but this is something that's happening all throughout the league because you got folks playing in midweek and you've got interesting choices on the weekend.
Yeah, I think Seattle played less starters, and Leo Chu played 45 minutes, and that was it. I mean, he was on a standard 1/2, and you're out of there. So because of that, I don't think Seattle is going to get too affected by the midweek game. I think that they're struggling with just injuries once again. Christian Roldan out. He had a setback with his protocol, a concussion protocol. Knew who's dealing with a virus, some viral illness that has him weak and fevers and all this other symptoms. So he's going to be out as well. Main reason why Kellen Rowe probably didn't start this game against San Diego Loyal. So because of that quality of young players, Tacoma Defiance players, I think Seattle really dodged the bullet there. Right? Because I was thinking Aber and Freddie Montero, 2 weeks ago before the Raul Ruiz injury. Now you have to put a little bit of a change. Freddie was the only one that was up there that had experience. So because of that, I think Seattle really managed that part well. It could have gone wrong, and we could have been talking again about why doesn't Brian Smetzer take this competition seriously, because that's the first thing people go for, right? Is that immediate reaction. But the truth is that when you have a couple of big-time injuries, I mean, that's 3 important players, Raul, Christian, and Nuhu, right? So without those 3 players, you got to figure out, hey, I got a big game against RSL, somewhere where I haven't won in the regular season since 2011, and I want to try to get a good result. So let me just handle this Open Cup, try to get a win with a squad that Brian Spencer told us was very confident in, but that without Javier Arriaga and Freddie Montero, if you take those 2 guys out, the average age was 21 years old, including Stephen Cleveland. That's like 27, 28. So again, it all goes back to having trust in your development team and your depth, deep end of your depth chart.
All right. Before we get into the week that is and the week that will be, we always have to play around a red light, yellow light, green light. And the parameters in this, for those that have not had the chance to listen to the show before or watch us, either way, however it's accessed, is that I always like to pose to Niko. You're at that 4-way intersection. You're staring at that thing that's right there, making sure that some cars go through and some cars don't. Sometimes you get an arrow if you want to make a turn one direction or the other. Red light, yellow light, green light is basically, all right, who is he on full stop for? Who does he have a red light hanging over the intersection for? It's like, okay, this car is in serious trouble. Yellow light traditionally means if there's something, if the car needs a tune-up, maybe some body work needs to go to needs to go to Mavis, needs to go to, pick your Sears Auto Center and, get some work done. And then maybe you go to Green Light. Those are the franchises and the teams that are playing in form that you don't want to mess with for whatever reason for another. You can have repeat answers from week to week, but your difference there has to be a different reason as to why there is a concern. So you want to start green light and go green light to red light, or do you want to start red light and go red light to green light?
No, let's go red light.
All right.
Let's start with the red light, man. Let's start with the team that we haven't talked about much, that I feel like maybe we've been giving him a pass because we've been looking in other ways. But Bob Bradley and the Toronto squad, man, they're a red light, man. They are 12th in the East. They've given up, 8 goals in the last 4 games. They seem to be very disbalanced, right? They'll get some goals, but they'll get them late. They'll find their way to create opportunities. But in the back end, man, I mean, they're absolutely atrocious. Just anybody can just come in and just score goals on this team that we were talking about early in the season about, wow, they made all these moves and Sean Johnson and everything that they're bringing in and Bernadeschi and Insigne. And now none of it's working. You got injuries, you got problems. And Bob doesn't really seem to have an answer to get this team going. So because of the roster, because of the expectations, because even with some moves that could potentially come, I don't really see a solid unit that's going to help this team just not concede goals. And if you concede goals all the time, you're just a coin flip. And even being a coin flip, I don't feel like they have enough of a firepower up top to just beat teams 4-3 or 5-4 or whatever you want to put it. So red light for Toronto. We haven't talked about Bob, but that seat has to be warming up.
And they picked up CJ Sapong this week from Nashville for Lucas McNaughton. McNaughton, who almost had own goals in back-to-back matches at the back for Toronto FC. I firmly believe if there might be anybody that could fix Lucas McNaughton, it might be Gary Smith. They're in Nashville. Try to figure out what's going on with him and maybe fix him up a little bit. So Gary Smith now gets Lucas McNaughton to help out at depth at the back. CJ Sapong has been sent to Toronto. So that's your red light for the week. Yellow light for the week is whom?
Unexpectedly, DC United.
Okay.
Man, what is going on with that team that I really had very low expectations for? I'm still not a believer in the Wayne Rooney bus that everybody's on, and the hype and all this and what he can do because of I'm still not on that bus. But you got to give them a yellow light because they completely took care of business against Orlando. Benteke looked good. He looks like that target forward that everybody thought he could be. Maybe giving you a little bit of vintage Benteke. I mean, he just looked good. The team seems to really found form. They do a great. Looking at this game, I got to watch it all over again yesterday. And set pieces, quality. Transition moments, quality. They really exposed Antonio Carlo that was coming in for the first time as a starter for Orlando. They were able to minimize what Facundo Torres is doing. That said, and we'll talk about Facundo Torres in a little bit, somebody's got to find him because he's missing. Absolutely don't know where the Facundo Torres of last season is now, but it's a problem in Orlando. But because of that, I really do think DC United's a team that if they continue to gain points, they gain confidence, and this squad with Fontes and Benteke up top can really get going and continue to be as a high volume XG team as they were this weekend. They could be a team that could do some damage. So I'm gonna put them in my yellow slot. And another team that we haven't talked about all season, or at least I haven't, not in a good way at least.
Yeah. For you to go, we're going to go yellow light DC United. I'm like, wait a minute, where's he going here? But it's a team going from red to yellow. Okay, I get it.
Yep.
I know where you're going here. So green light this week goes to whom?
That's a tough one because there's a lot of teams that we've talked about there being on green. Seattle does a decent job at finding ways to break down Minnesota. San Luis gets a 1-1 draw. Colorado but now Joe Claus is out for a couple of weeks. So, we're not going to talk about those teams. I want to give the New York City FC, uh, a brand new green light.
Okay.
Because they found a way to use a false nine or use variations and movements with those forwards in that attacking third to create a lot of opportunities, man. Santiago Rodriguez, I talked about him here when we broke the news that he was coming back from Torquay, that finally New York City FC had decided to bring him back despite all the contract issues. He wasn't happy, but he's come with a chip on his shoulder, and that 10 on his chest, that 10 right here on his back, that's not for show. He really is playing that well, and now as a false nine, also doing great, right? He's such a smart player, understands the width of the length. That goal where he is looking at that backdoor pass to that second post, I mean, it's beautiful the way he reads that. He's calmly, yes, there's some poor defending, absolutely, but the way he's reading the game, it's beyond his years. So having a guy like Santi really excels what Pereira can do, what Talis Magna could do, and a team that still needs to find his way in the back end, I think slowly but surely has gone from yellow to green because of the ceiling. That ceiling, because of the talent, is extremely high right now in a way that I didn't think it'd be possible because they took so long to get this team together. But now things are starting to shift. All those grinds are starting to just catch together, and this team is dangerous, man. So I'm gonna put him in the green column.
All right, so that's red light, yellow light, green light from the week that was. Let's get into the week that will be, and we always do this through juice boxes. We always say and we always recommend that if you are going to have juice boxes, leave your fridge and work them toward these games. Only make sure that they're the juice boxes you can afford to live without and won't disappoint if someone wants to reach in and have it as a part of breakfast or lunch at work and you're brown bagging it. Where's my juice box? Well, it was on Austin and St. Louis City FC last week. So make sure that it's the juice boxes you can afford, maybe the ones with the expiration date that you kind of forgot about in the back of the fridge that you can sit there and go, yeah, I can afford that juice box to go away because I want my fresh juice boxes for later. All right, let's start off with the early match. And it is going to be the Super Hyper Mega pregame show. So it's going to be a 1:55 Eastern time start with Atlanta United going to Geodis to take on Nashville SC. Nashville, obviously a favorite, but they're on the plus side. They're at a plus 114. Atlanta United's at a plus 230. What do you think?
It's a good game. I really do think this is going to be a draw no matter what. I think that Gary's going to play very pragmatic. I still don't understand why get rid of Sidi Sapong when he was the one forward that I think could give you something a little bit different. No disrespect to Bunbury. I get that Mukhtar does a lot of that work as well, and he's been fantastic. I mean, he could have had that 2-1 against LAFC last week, but was off by a couple of inches. But again, I really do think that against a team like Atlanta, despite not having Gigi and Mr. Almada, maybe with some pains and aches, I really do think that Gary's going to play very pragmatic. He's going to have blocks deep in. He's going to tell Gonzalo Pineda, come get me, come break me down. And they're going to use Moore and Lovitz out wide to carry out a lot of counters, work of transitions, and try to get a goal. But in this one, I like the draw.
7:30's got 5 matches. Some of them are, under our normal cliffhanger rules. Basically, we sit there and go, yeah, okay, great, fine. Columbus hosting Inter Miami, who scores apparently in other competitions other than Major League Soccer. DC United, your yellow light, hosting Charlotte. Sneaky good one with New England and Cincinnati. So if there's no rooting interest for folks in New England and Cincinnati, keep an eye on that one on Season Pass. Orlando, the purple team, hosting LAG, and Toronto FC, your red light, hosting your green light this week in NYCFC. What do you think about those? What do you want to know more about?
I want to know more about that New England Cincy. I'm interested in that number 1, number 2 matchup on the East. What do we got?
New England is a plus 112. They're on the plus side. Draws a plus 250. FC Cincinnati is a plus 237. Brenner is on his way to Udinese.
Ooh, that
Mm,
that, that 237. I like that plus 237. New England's been good, and I really like the way Bruce is kind of giving you different combinations up top with Bo and Brody, and sometimes he brings Carlos Hill, and sometimes you don't really know what you're going to get until you kind of face this team up front. I like what Cincinnati has been doing, but I think that they're going to need to beat the New England Revolution at their own game. If they allow them to possess and continue to come at Cincinnati, I think they could be in some trouble. But Cincinnati, man, if there's a team that could win ugly, is them. And maybe when you have a team like New England that at times gets a little bit exposed down in the middle of the field, where Lucho can find some spaces and Brandon Vasquez finally can get on the scoreboard, I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one. That's a big upset, in my opinion. Both have 20 points. Both have been good. But I think if we look at style of play and how dominant they've been, I think the Revolution takes a little bit of that favoritism. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, in Cincinnati, for those that have forgotten, is kind of like Philadelphia Union West, considering you want to win ugly. You got Pat Noonan and that group over there in Cincinnati who've made their way over from Philadelphia Union. So winning ugly and being able to do that with the Philadelphia Union pedigree that was developed before they all went to FCC, definitely understandable there.
Yeah, and what about that Orlando LAG? Because that's two teams that really need a win. It could be a coin flip, but I'm going to give Orlando the benefit of the doubt because of the quality that they have. So give me the numbers on Orlando.
Orlando's a plus 116, your draw's a plus 260, and LAG is a plus 218 in the composite.
Because I have almost the 90% feeling that Greg Van is going to mess everything up that he did right last week by simplifying things, playing with two up front, allowing those wing backs to get a little forward. He called it a 4-4-2. He is attacking with a 3-5-2 is what we've been asking. Just simplify it. It worked. But that's too easy for Greg. He's got to have a challenge. He's got to mess it all up. So I have a feeling that he's going to go play Orlando City with different lineup, whether it's his 4-1-4-1 or he's going to do some different, mess it up, and Orlando's going to get a feel-good game against the LAG. So I'll go with the certainty with Orlando in this one.
All right, 8:30 Easterns. You've got Austin at Q2 hosting San Jose, Chicago Fire at home hosting Red Bull, Sporting hosting CF Montreal. So it's a battle at the bottom of both conferences. And on the free side of Apple TV, St. Louis City SC and your Portland Timbers. So what do you think there?
Yeah, you'd have to pay me to watch Montreal Sporting Kansas City, to be quite frank. So I don't know if that's free. You're wasting my time. So I like the numbers on Austin San Jose. That's an interesting one for me.
Austin just north of plus 100, just north of even money at a plus 102 in the composite. Your draw's a plus 263. San Jose's a plus 252.
Oh yeah. Give me that all day, every day. Absolutely. I'll take that without a problem. Yes, we saw a San Jose team that got a little bit exposed by an RSL team that, they're yellow. I told you guys last week, that's a lot of talent. Gomez gets his first goal. The quality in that goal, too. The way he first touched that away from the defender, beautiful. Jefferson Savarino, you got Rubin, Ruiz. This team really got it going on. Julio Anderson, they can really put some firepower on you if they really want to. So that's why San Jose, yes, they got beat down, couple of bad, easy giveaways that you can't come back from. But this San Jose team is really, really good. And I want to see that awful, terrible, just mind-blowing back line of Austin handling Espinosa, Cowell, Ebobisi. That just, to me, I'll take that. What's the over on goals, by the way?
All right, so let's check the total. All right, so let's check the total once again for information purposes only. And once again, if you're going to do a separate juice box transaction, make sure it's juice boxes you can afford to part with. Make sure that no one gets upset when they want to have a cran grape with their peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 12:30. All right, 2.5 is a minus 137. 3.5 is a plus 175. Man, you can jump on that already. 3.5 at a plus 175. 4.5 is a plus 420. Nice.
Okay, I'm going to play it safe. 3.5 plus San Jose. I'll take both of those. I think there's a certainty. Put my name on it. Hopefully, I don't disappoint y'all. But that's my confident take on juice boxes for the week.
Okay, the parlay, and we're not talking about the kit neither. We're talking about combining elements, combining juice boxes from different levels of the fridge. It is San Jose and the over with Niko at the 8:30 games. 9:30. This is the one that I wanted to get you to talk about. RSL at home plus 154, draws a plus 246. Seattle coming off the 9-goal madness is a plus 167. So they're within shouting distance of this being a road even or, possibly even a road favorite. Like I said, we've still got another 24 hours or so for this line to move a little more. Seattle within shouting distance as a bit of a road dog.
Yeah, man, a little too cold for my comfort level, to be quite honest. I need it to be a little hotter for me to put anything on it. Seattle's just struggled in Rio Tinto. That's just the way things go. You've heard me talk about this RSL team. I think Seattle, without Nuhu, they're a different team. Yes, Kellen can do a lot of things right, and he's a serviceable player. But he's not new. He's not a lockdown defender. He's not a specialist. He doesn't have that ability to break lines with his speed. He's a good player. I'm not saying that he's not, but the dynamic of what Seattle does without Christian Roldan and Nuhu is huge. So I would stay completely away from this one if I was a betting man and I had to go for it, which I am a betting man. But if I had to go on this one particular game, I would take the draw. I'll take the draw.
All right.
And if you go back to the databases and these two teams at RSL, it's probably a lot of ties. So it might not be a bad one, but I could see somebody taking RSL on it as well. That's not me. I go with the draw, but that's a tough one for Seattle for sure.
All right, and we've got a couple more here. The late game. Colorado has to travel to Vancouver. Anybody traveling to Vancouver, it's a pain. Vancouver's on the minus side, but Colorado having to travel to Vancouver, it's not quite an East-West crossover, but Vancouver gets to make Colorado's life hell at 10:39 on Saturday night.
Man, Vancouver just let go of Christian Dahome to DC, man, and that's a big one for me. That guy was not just quality on the field and someone that was extremely hard to cover, but he was a locker room guy that had a lot of respect, and he gave confidence to a lot of that team. So, man, I really think that I take Colorado, man. What's the numbers on Colorado?
Colorado at home or on the road is a plus 333 at Vancouver, who's a minus.
Look, I know that's a tough one, and I know that's probably a gamble that you might not want to put too many juice boxes on. Right. But Colorado, man, against this Vancouver team that I think is just tripping itself within its own moves, I think Colorado could do something with this one.
Last one on the board is the FS1 match on Sunday night. Loons hosting FC Dallas. Minnesota's a plus 127. Draws a plus 242, and FC Dallas is a plus 209 to try to get points away from Inchie in Minneapolis.
Oh, man, that's such a tough one because I told you I have told myself I'm not going to watch FC Dallas. I had to because of New York City FC. Wanted to watch them, but they're just disappointing, man. They're so disappointing in the way they just handle the way they manage the games. How fragile that team is. I mean, once they get behind, it just seems like ears go down, your tail goes between your legs, and it's just over. That quality is not being exploited. There's so much attacking weapons, and they don't seem to really be cohesive at this time. At Minnesota, man, they just make you work for it. They'll grind it out. But I might go even money there and just go with the easy draw for that one.
Plus 242 in that one. Draw for
that's a good one.
9 o'clock East as FC Dallas heads to Allianz to take on Wonderwall and the Loons. Before we get out of here, what else is on your mind in this upcoming week of Major League Soccer and what's going on at Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
One thing that's on my mind is Cucho Hernandez is back in training. I can't wait to see him back with Columbus. He's a guy that's so talented, so good for this league, but just was dealt the wrong hand at the beginning of the season. I'm excited to watch him come back. In terms of Soccer Bar, Pulso Soccer Bar, we had great discussions this week. We talked about Leagues Cup and the schedules, and the times of all these games, what it's going to be about. We talked a little bit about LA Galaxy and this Greg Vanny thing, how quick and everything break down. Really good discussion in Spanish and on YouTube at Pulso Sports. Go check out the interviews, man. Reed Baker was amazing to talk to. So excited. He said he's the best moment of his career to score a goal like that one. He said he went along when he first started against San Antonio. Austin, Jesus, I don't know what San Antonio against Austin a couple of seasons back. Freddie Montero talking about just being a guy that's a role player, but continues to give this franchise great moments, right? I mean, he built the foundation of excellence and achievements for the club with those 4 U.S. Open Cups that he was a part of, with everything that he did when he was with the Seattle Sounders. So it's really exciting just to watch him talk about the fans, Starfire, the moments that he's had at Starfire. So it's really great. Go check those out. Some good content from all of those players, including Brian Smetzer, that just seemed to have a big grin after that win that I know he was having some palpitations there, but he got that.
And we can't have palpitations, especially as you head into a weekend, because you need to have the heart going at full song, especially with another weekend on short notice coming off of Open Cup and heading back into Major League Soccer. Niko, my friend, as always, it's great to catch up with you. Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. El Rolo NW on the Twitters. We'll catch up with you again next week, my friend. Be safe, be well, and may all of the juice boxes stay in your fridge.
All right.
It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll do it again next week.